Okay, I think we're going to get started just to honor everyone's time. Thank you for coming. My name is Mara Vlasic, and I'm one of the instructional technology coaches in our district. I work at Linwood High School and Mount Lake Terrace High School, and I have used Pear Deck a few times in the classroom, but I'm super excited to show all of you how to use it. I think it's a really valuable tool, so I appreciate you being here. A few things before we get started. Just as an FYI, this training is being recorded. Your names will be hidden and your video will be hidden. So I'll make sure of that before we post it on our training site so that other teachers can look at it if they want to watch the webinar recorded. And also you can refer back to it if you want to check in on what we did in this session. You will receive clock hours for attending this session. You all registered for it through the Google form. I have your email addresses there, and I will follow up with you with an email about the course in the PD portal once we have that set up. So look out for an email for us. We're setting up just one course for all these webinar training sessions that we're doing as a team. So we will give you that hour credit for this webinar. Is there anyone who did not register with that Google form and needs the form passed along? Okay, you can let me know also towards the end if you do. We will be going between the Zoom screen share and the Pear Deck lesson. This is an interactive webinar where you will get to experience what it's like to be a student in a Pear Deck lesson. So I would encourage you to only have those two things open on your computer, the Zoom meeting, so that you can see my shared screen and then a new Chrome browser. One thing that's really helpful for that is to be able to switch between screens on your device. So if you're on a staff ThinkPad, you can click the Windows icon and then the tab button to see everything that's open on your computer. If you are using a Chromebook, you can click and hold the Alt button and then click Tab to switch between windows that you have open. So if you are using those shortcuts, it'll be easier for you to go between the Zoom meeting and then another browser to participate as a student. So we are going to start our Pear Deck. You are going to go to joinpd.com. Anytime you do a Pear Deck lesson with students, that's a live lesson like what we're doing right now, where it's teacher-led. You have them go to joinpd.com and then they put in this 5-letter join code. So ours is JNUMY, Juicy Ninjas, Underwhelm, Misty Yards. They're always random things that don't really make sense, but it's a 5-letter code. And then you can start. If you've never used Pear Deck before, you will have to log in with your Google account. So please do that. Your students will also have to do that the very first time they use a Pear Deck lesson, and then every other time after that, they will not have to log in. Is anyone having any technical issues with that? I also want to mention, which I will again in just a second, that if you have questions, please use the chat in our Zoom session. Leanne, one of our other coaches who's in charge of libraries in Edmonds School District, she is going to monitor the chat for questions and answer them as we go. Also, she can let me know of questions that weren't answered at the end of our session. Okay, so it looks like from my teacher computer, I can see that 13 students have connected. We have 21 participants, so we're going to give people a little extra time to join. Some people are just joining our session right now, so we'll give them a minute or two to join. If you're doing a live session, your computer will look like mine. Well, you'll have the join code right here, and then students can just join from there. Leanne, if you wouldn't mind posting that in the chat, joinpd.com, and then our access code is JNUMY so that any late joiners can jump in. And if you could mute your audio, that would be super awesome, just so we don't have a lot of background noise. Yesterday, my fiance decided to cook lunch in the middle of my webinar. Today, he's not here, so hopefully there'll be no audio interruptions today. Okay. So we've got 18 students connected. We'll get the last few on. The join code is in the chat. Again, the Windows icon plus tab if you're on your ThinkPad, and then the Alt and tab if you're on a Chromebook to switch between. So our agenda today, we're going to interact with all the Pear Deck slides. You'll get to experience every type of interactive slide that you can create with Pear Deck as a student. And then we will install the Pear Deck and explore the toolbar. I'll give you a brief overview of peardeck.com, including resources that we've created as a team for you. and then we'll have some time for questions. If just some meeting norms, if you can mute your audio, that'd be great. Use the chat for a question. And then if we have any connection issues, I'll ask you to turn off your video just so that it can help our connection. But we were fine this morning with 30 participants, so we should be okay. And Leanne, feel free to jump in if there's any questions in the middle that you would like me to address. Okay, this is the first example of a Pear Deck interactive slide. It's a multiple choice question. So on your Chrome window, oops, I did not join the access code. Let me do that. JNUMY. So on your window, you will have a multiple choice question to answer. And it is about your use of Pear Deck. Here we go. And once you answer that question, if I jump back to the teacher view, I have this toolbar down here that lets me control a presentation. So you should be able to see this on my shared screen. It shows me what slide I'm at, how many students have responded. So 16 of you have responded to that multiple choice question. And then I can show responses. So let's see what your experience is like with Pear Deck. So we have quite a few who have used it in PD, quite a few who have never used it, and we have 8 of you that are here that says, what's Pear Deck and why am I here? So thanks for coming. I'm so glad that you're taking the chance to take webinars, even about things that you might not know about. So thanks for that. As the teacher, I can also lock your screen, so I can decide that I would like you to be done answering that question. If I don't lock your screens, you're able to change your answer as we go, so you can modify how you responded. As the teacher, also in a Pear Deck lesson, I control the pace of the lesson. So if I think it's time for us to move on, I can click the next slide. So to answer your question, what is Pear Deck? It is a Google Slides add-on that makes any slide interactive. So using Google Slides presentations, either ones you've already created or brand new ones, you can add some sort of interactive feature to those slides. Yes, Leanne.
Mara,
yes.
The shared screen is still showing the sign up.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I paused my shared screen. Let's go back. Here we go. Thanks, Leanne. Okay, so we were on this question. Here is what I see as a teacher for your multiple choice question. Can you see that now? Yep, okay, great. So as a teacher, I see what your responses are. So it looks like, let me just move this over. There we go. It looks like we have 8 people that don't know what Pear Deck is and don't know why they're here, and then a few that have seen it or have never used it. So here is where I can lock your screen. So I have this toolbar down here. I'll talk about that toolbar as we go too. So this is an example of a multiple choice interactive slide. So what is Pear Deck? It's a Google Slide add-on. You can make any slide interactive, whether it's an old Google Slide presentation or a brand new one that you're making. There are 6 types of interactive features. A multiple choice, which we just used, adding a text response, adding a number response. You can embed a website, you can draw on a slide, or you can do a draggable slide. So you are going to try all 6 of those. The great thing about Pear Deck is they also include templates. So they have templates for beginning of the lesson, middle of the lesson, end of lesson. They also have content specific templates and templates specific for K2. So if you are in any range of those content areas, they have tons of templates that you can just immediately add to your slides. Again, it can be teacher paced like we're doing now. It can also be student paced. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. In this continuous learning model, you might be using student paced more, where you post a link, students work through the slideshow at their own pace. A live model like this could be done on a Zoom meeting. When we go back to school, hopefully in September, you can also use it with a Hapara focus session. So there's lots of ways to control how students are interacting with the slide and also lock them into that presentation. And all of you have a premium account through the end of the school year. We're hopeful that teachers really enjoy using this, and then we can continue to support that going into next year. If you're using a staff computer, it's really helpful if you use your stylus pen. So you have a built-in pen on the side of your computer if you're using the ThinkPads, and that's really helpful to draw on these slides. For students, they have touch screens except for the current seniors. So if you're doing interactive slides with students, just remember that the seniors do not have a touch screen, so they would be drawing using their mouse pad, but all the other students can use their touch screen. Okay, Leanne, we're doing okay for questions? Awesome. Okay, here we go. Pear Deck's mission is to create powerful learning moments for every student every day. It was founded by educators on a mission to help teachers engage every student every day. So the purpose behind this is they wanted all students to be able to engage in all lessons that they are given. Even the student who sits in the back of the room who doesn't want to raise their hand, they can still share their answers. So here's some benefits about active learning. Active learning has a 6 percentage point increase in achievement on average in classrooms that use active learning techniques. It also creates a 50% reduction in achievement gaps between less and more affluent students. So allowing active learning decreases that gap. And it has a 100% reduction in achievement gap between male and female students. So being able to allow all students to participate actively has a lot of benefits. So let's see some examples. This is a draggable slide. So you are going to give me a stress check. 0, I'm in a good place and I feel great about distance learning. 10, I am extremely stressed about distance learning. Where are you at? So on your screen, you have a purple bar that you can drag to tell me where you are at. And I'm going to show our responses as they come in. So it looks like we're kind of all over the place. Some of us are having a hard time deciding where we're at on this stress check. It might have been different this morning compared to right now. So I appreciate your honesty and how you're feeling. As the teacher with these slides, I can display all the responses overlaid, which is what you're seeing right now. I can also do a grid layout. So I can see each individual response, and we'll give it a second to load. So this shows me all the students' responses individually. So that's really effective for like drawing slides. One thing to notice is that this view is what I would put on the projector or what I would display to students. It is anonymous. So there are no names attached to it. So every student can participate without feeling any anxiety about their response. I can also give it as a list layout. So if I wanted to show each response individually with a much more zoomed in look, and it will just take a minute to buffer. So here's each individual response as a list. So in this display, you have 3 options: list, or a grid view, or an overlay view. And it just depends on the question, how you want to display that to students in a live session. Okay, I think we're all feeling like pretty good or a little bit nervous. So I think that's pretty good. So as the presenter, these are the controls that I see. I can navigate my slides here. If you use Google Slides and you use speaker notes, any speaker notes that you add are in this notes tab. So I can click notes and I can see what notes I had added. So if I use those to present, it's a good resource. Yes, Leanne.
Mara, there's a question about when participants should go to the shared screen and when they should go back to their screen.
Oh, that's a good question. I think I'll let you know when it's an interactive slide to go back to your screen. So right now, if you can be on the shared screen, that would be great. On this navigation bar, I also can see how many students responded. I can show responses, so that's how I show the different layouts. I can lock your screens. And then Pear Deck has this new feature where you can add a new question on the fly. So if I'm giving a Pear Deck lesson and I thought of another question or I want to check in with my students, I can click this new prompt button down here, and Pear Deck has some template slides to choose from. So there's multiple choice, short answer, draw. They have a variety of them. You can see them all on the Pear Deck website, and you can just add a question on the fly if you want. So you can't modify what's on the slides when you're in a session, but you can add a question as you go. Okay, let's keep going. So this is an interactive slide. So if you want to go back to your Pear Deck lesson, and this is a text question. So this is an example of a text question. And the question is, Where do you work and what is your position? Okay, it looks like we've got 20 responses. Okay, if you want to go back to the shared screen. When I click show responses, I can see who is in our Pear Deck meeting right now. So I can see we have some elementary teachers, we have some middle school teachers, a speech language pathologist, we have some managers, some instructional coaches. So we've got a big range of people in this meeting. I want to show you the teacher dashboard feature. So is there anyone, you can give me a thumbs down on your video if you do not want your name associated with your position. Anyone? Everyone's okay with that? Okay, so the teacher dashboard opens in another window. So when I'm presenting a live session, I get this teacher dashboard. So if you go back to the shared screen, this teacher dashboard shows me names attached to those responses. So they're anonymous to you in the projector view, but the teacher dashboard lets me see those names attached. So I can see your name that you've signed in to Pear Deck with, and then I can see your response. There's a few things that I can do in this window. I can highlight responses, so I can star responses. And then in the student view, only those starred responses would show up. So if you want to monitor what students are saying and how they're responding to your lesson, you can star them to highlight a few. I can clear all those stars down here. I can also remove comments or hide comments. So let's see, if I didn't like Rose Maxwell's response, Rose, I can hide her response. So then that would not be viewable by the rest of the students. So if you want to monitor students' responses, you can do that as well. And we'll show Rose. So this is the teacher dashboard. This is available in a live session like we're doing now, also in a student paced session. So you can log in, see the student or the teacher dashboard and see what students have done already or what students haven't connected yet. Okay, let's keep going.
I have a question
yeah.
really quick. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I was a few minutes late to this meeting.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how I toggle between my screen and what you're sharing with us.
That's a great question. So let me put that back up. Bear with me as I click back through. Here we go. If you're on the ThinkPad, that's okay. Leanne, can you add these to the notes or to the chat too? ThinkPad is the Windows key and tab. Chromebook is the Alt and tab.
Okay, great. That's awesome.
No problem. Yep. Okay. The next slide is a draw slide. So any drawing slide that you add, this is the toolbar that you'll have at the bottom of your screen. So I just want to go over it really quickly so you know what's available to you. You can change the thickness of your pen using this button here. You can go between a pen or pencil type draw tool, a highlighter, you can add a line. You can also add a type. You can type your response on the slide. You can erase your typing. You can undo any changes that you make. You can delete all of your response, and then you can change colors of your pen or highlighter. So here is your drawing picture or your drawing slide. So the question is, what is filling your bucket today? So we checked our stress. Now tell me, what is one thing that is making you happy today, filling your joy bucket today? And you can draw your response so you're back on your student window. Or you can type your response as well. And I'm going to do that also. Oops. Erase that. Okay. Okay, if we go back to the share screen, we can see all of the responses, and it looks like most of us are really excited about the sun. So I'll try to make this as efficient as possible so we can get out into it as soon as possible. I really like this dog drawing. I'm not sure about this one. Maybe it's a cookie. It looks like a cookie. The CView staff, these are awesome. So one thing that I would suggest to you if you do a live session is to run your session on one window, open a new tab or on a different device, log in as a student also. So you can log in as a student, you can join as a student without actually logging in. And then I added my response here. So if I wanted to highlight my response and say, man, this student did such a good job on this answer, but it's really just my response, you can also participate as a student. So that allows you to also ensure that there is a response that you can highlight if a student didn't have a response that you wanted to highlight. Again, here, you're still participating, so I can lock your screens, and that would stop you from being able to add any drawings to your slide. So a few things about using the teacher dashboard. So it opens in another window for every Pear Deck session that you run. If you're doing a live presentation like this, you can open it on a separate device. So you can go to peardeck.com and open the teacher dashboard. So if you wanted to walk around the room as you're presenting this lesson, you could. Or if you want to use the same device, you could open it on a new tab or window. In this setting, in a Zoom meeting, I can pause my screen, which is what I did on accident earlier, and then open the teacher dashboard, look at it, go back to this screen, and then unpause it. So I can still look at it in the same device and just hide that from students, so their names are still anonymous. Okay, Leanne, any questions?
Barbara, did you get your question answered?
Yes, I just got over to Pear Deck, so I think I know how to go back and forth now.
Okay.
Okay, so. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Okay, this is a number or an estimation slide. So you're going to go back to your student view and tell me how many days have we been in lockdown, either fact or feeling. Okay, it looks like we have quite a few. And let's see here. Oops. So with number slides, and I forgot to do this again, this is my second Pear Deck webinar today, I apologize. You can set a range for these number slides. So I can set a range from 0 to 1,000,000 or 0 to 10. And so I can either see your responses, if you go back to the share screen, I can either see them as individual answers, or if I had correctly set that number range, I would see them as a range on this. So I would see the red dots within this number range. So you can set that range on the Pear Deck slide. Sorry about that, second time today. One feature, I've been in contact with our Pear Deck rep, James. He's been super helpful in helping get all teachers on Pear Deck at Edmonds School District. And one thing we talked about yesterday was the Immersive Reader. This was a feature that was just in beta, but now it's really well developed and it has a lot of the same features as Google Read and Write. So the Immersive Reader is a feature available to all students in Pear Deck lessons. It's this book icon. It'll show up in the bottom right corner of your screen. And it allows the students to have the text. So any text that is added to the slide that you type into the slide, it allows that text to be read out loud to them. The student can control the pace of that read aloud, so they can slow it down or speed it up. They can choose if it's a male or female voice. They can also translate the text into multiple languages. So it will translate the text on the slide and read it out loud using a voice that speaks that language. And we tested it yesterday in Spanish and Mandarin, and it was really well. The translation was really good. They can also change the text size. They can change the font style and the background behind the text. They can also mask the background to highlight 1 to 3 lines of text at a time. So I'm going to have you test out the Immersive Reader when we do a little bit of student paced slides. But it will look like, if you can see my shared screen right now, it's this book button in the bottom right corner. And this is what it looks like. So it takes the text from my slide here. I can play that text. I can also adjust speed here. And then I can go to my reading preferences and I can translate that text into all of these different languages and then have it read out loud. So this is a feature that I think is super useful, especially if you're having younger students use Pear Deck. They can have these slides read aloud to them. So let's go back.
Mara?
Yes.
This might be something you'll want to talk about later, but one participant was wondering if there are any tips for how to use Zoom while doing Pear Deck with students. If the idea is to go back and forth like we're doing here, or if you've got suggestions for folks.
Yeah, I think the things that I have used in these Zoom meetings is to pause my screen when I want to, when I'm screen sharing, to pause it so that students see my screen and it's stuck there. I can also, there's also a highlight screen. So we don't have directions specifically for Pear Deck and Zoom, but that's something that I'm happy to write up and put on the resource page. And I'll show you the resource page towards the end of the lesson. So peardeck.com is how I would suggest that you set up your Pear Deck account. I'll give you a little bit of time towards the end to do that. But peardeck.com you'll log in with your district email and create a teacher account, which is a premium account. And then your sessions, so any Pear Deck sessions that you run are saved on peardeck.com. This is a great resource because you can reopen the teacher dashboard of any session. If I end a session, I can reopen that session for other students. So if there's additional students that want to use that session again. I can also change a closed session to student paced. So if I ended this session right now, and then I wanted to open it so other students could join and go through it at their own pace, I can make that session student paced. peardeck.com is also a great place to find your takeaways. So every student, if you choose to do this, will receive a Google Doc sent to their email. The Google Doc has every slide from the Pear Deck session and their responses on those interactive slides. So they get a takeaway that has all slides, all of their answers, and it's personalized for them. As the teacher, I can access those takeaways on peardeck.com. I also get a blank copy. So if I want to pass on that blank copy to students, I can do that through peardeck.com. So this is where you manage your sessions, and then we'll walk through how to create one too. Okay, this is an example of a website slide. So the last type of interactive feature is to embed a website. So you are looking at peardeck.com right now. I'm not going to have you create your account just yet because it's a little bit tricky from inside a Pear Deck lesson, but you could embed any website that you wanted students to explore during the session. Another thing that, yeah, go ahead.
One quick question.
Yeah.
Is it possible to reuse the same lesson over multiple years or sessions?
Yes. So, and we'll go over this too. When you create a Pear Deck lesson, it's just a Google Slide add-on. So as long as you have access to that Google Slide, you can start the session again. So you can always start a session over. You can open up a closed session. I believe Pear Deck keeps your sessions for up to a year with the premium account. So any sessions would be available at peardeck.com for up to a year. I will double check that and put that on the resource site as well. Great question. James and I were talking yesterday about videos because a lot of teachers are using WeVideo to record lessons, and you can embed a video, a WeVideo or a YouTube video using that website feature. So that would let students watch a video inside your Pear Deck lesson and not go outside. So that's also a great feature. There's directions on our Pear Deck resource page that I'm working on right now to show you how to embed a video. So this is similar to like Edpuzzle, where you can add interactive things within the video. In Pear Deck, you can set a start time and a finish time for a section of a video and have them watch that inside of a Pear Deck lesson with interactive slides. Okay. Student-paced mode. So I'm going to turn this presentation into student-paced mode. I've got about 4 other interactive slides after this one that you can work through on your own. And then I can have the teacher dashboard open as you go through those to see how you are answering those questions, how you're interacting with the slides. So this is something that you can use for your students. So to do that, I just click these 3 dots on my toolbar, and I'm going to turn on student paced mode. And if you go back to your student site to where you logged into Pear Deck, you can now go through the next 4 or 5 slides on your own, and feel free to skip some, go back, however you want to interact with those slides. And we'll do that for a few minutes so that you can experience what student paced looks like. And if you have any questions during this time too, I'd be happy to answer those. Looks like. I think we all know where Germany and Italy is. Good. I tried to include on these interactive slides as you go through them a range of levels. So these are all from the Pear Deck template library. Some are geared to K2, some are content specific. So as you click through them, you can see some of the templates. And these are things that I didn't modify. I just imported directly into the Pear Deck session. And I'll give you about another minute. You all look so intensely engaged. I think we have some math teachers in here too. Y equals X plus 2. Looks pretty accurate. Nice job. Oh. Okay, if I can have you come back to the shared screen, that would be great. I'll wait a second to stop that. So if you're looking at my shared screen again, you can see that in a student-paced lesson, students can complete this at any time. So they don't have to be doing this during a certain time period. As long as I've shared that link to the student-paced lesson, they can complete it. And I can see, as the teacher, I can see how many students have interacted on this slide. You get this green bar down here to see like if there's students interacting here. And so on slide 4, or right here on this math slide, I can see that about half of my students have interacted on this slide. So you can always go back in and see who's interacted. I can also go in to here we go. I can go into the teacher dashboard. Let's see. Oh, I'm in the teacher dashboard. So I can go in here and I can see your responses as well. So the teacher dashboard is really your tool to be able to monitor the sessions as they happen. So I'm going to stop student paced mode, and here we go. This looks pretty good. Okay, we're going to talk about ending a session. So if I wanted to end this session, which I will do in just a minute, I can name this session, so you can stay organized with your Pear Deck sessions by giving them a name. And then I can publish those student takeaways. So if I check that publish student takeaway, then you will get an email with a Google Doc about your slides and your responses from this session. So you get this option at the end. If I end a session and then I decide I want to open it back up to be student paced, I can do that at peardeck.com. So I can turn that closed session into student paced to share with other people. So I think that we should build a Pear Deck now. So if you want to, I'm going to end this session and we'll call this Pear Deck webinar, 3 p.m. Thursday. And I'm going to publish those takeaways. So you'll get an email from Pear Deck with those takeaways. And then here we go. I am going to open up peardeck.com. So I would encourage you to not start your account yet. I'm going to just walk through the Pear Deck toolbar now to show you how to make one. And then in the Q&A time, we can make our accounts. So you would go to peardeck.com and use that teacher login button. You will have to allow permission. It takes a minute to make your account because you have to allow permission to Pear Deck to access your Google Slides. You can also allow it to access your Google Drive. What that will do is create a folder in your Google Drive called Pear Deck where your takeaways will be saved as well. So you have those two options when you create your account. It will also have you connect with your school so that you can see other teachers that are using Pear Deck. So it'll ask for your zip code, I think, for your school. So once your account is created, then we just open a Google Slides presentation. It can be an old presentation or a new one. And once you've created your account, you get this Pear Deck icon right here. If you don't have that, you can get the add-ons. So you go to add-ons and Pear Deck for Google Slides and open Pear Deck add-ons. On our resource page, I made a video of 3 different ways to get it and some ways to troubleshoot. So if you have trouble at all in getting the add-on, that video is super helpful and I'll show you where to find that. So once I have Pear Deck, I just click Pear Deck and it opens up the Pear Deck toolbar on any Google Slides presentation. So this is the Pear Deck toolbar and this is the whole thing. So I have a couple options here. I'm just going to show you quickly the template library. If I click on template library, I have templates for beginning of the lesson, during the lesson, end of lesson. I also have critical thinking, social emotional learning, and then I have templates for specific subject areas. So I'm going to show you some beginning of the lesson templates. So these are all slides that Pear Deck has created. Again, everything about this slide is editable. But if I wanted to add this drawing slide, I just click on it. And then I wait very patiently. And then it gets added to my Google slide. So it just got added here on slide 2. I can move this to a different spot in my Google Slides. I can decide where I want it to go. And then I know that it's a Pear Deck interactive slide because at the bottom of the slide, it has this Pear Deck icon and it says students draw anywhere on this slide. So this is a drawing slide. They would get that drawing toolbar that you experienced. But maybe I don't like what it says. So I can change this to takeaways from today's lesson. So I can change the text. I can also change all of the images that are on the slide and edit it however I want. If I decided that this draw slide, I wanted it to be a text response instead, I can also change the type of interactive feature that it has. So I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Let's add one more. Maybe I'm going to add this draggable slide. And again, these are all templates that Pear Deck has already created that you can just add to your presentation. So now I have 2 interactive slides in my Google Slides presentation. If I back out of the templates and I go down here, under this Ask Students a Question, these are all of the different choices you have to make interactive slides. So there's 6 different choices. I can change interactive slides. So if I go to this one and I want this to be a drawing slide instead, I can just click Draw. And it will change that interactive feature from a draggable, was it a draw already? It was already a draw. Let's make it a text. So it'll change it from a draw to a text. So I can change the feature of the slide if I want. If I wanted to change this slide that I've already created, so let's say you have a slide that you want to make interactive, I just click on the slide and then I can choose what type of slide I want it to be. So I want this to be draggable. So the important part if you're going to add any interactive feature to your slide is to give some sort of direction on the slide for students. If it's a draggable, I have some choices too. I can choose what type of icon I use. Let's make it a boat. I can also add additional draggable things. So I can have a book also and maybe a fish. And I'm going to change that. So now the students have 3 things to drag on that slide. So you just want to make sure that you have some directions on what they're doing with those icons. And then once you're done with your Pear Deck lesson, let's say I'm ready to present this either live or as a student-paced lesson. The important part of presenting a Pear Deck lesson is just to click that Start Lesson button. So in the Pear Deck toolbar, we click Start Lesson, and then we get 2 choices. We get a student-paced activity or an instructor-paced activity. So we just did an instructor-paced activity. If I wanted this to be student-paced, I can click on that. It's letting me know about the teacher dashboard. I can access that from my Pear Deck homepage. I can also access it here if I want to just open it right away. And then all I do is copy the link. So this is the link to my Pear Deck presentation. I can paste that link on my Canvas assignment, on my Google Classroom. Correct me if I'm wrong, K-8 coaches, could you paste that on Seesaw? Yes, James says yes. You can also put it in an email if it's a student-paced lesson that you want students to complete for the week. So that's how you share it from Google Slides. So from Google Slides, not from peardeck.com, I just copy this link and share that with students. I can also get that student-paced link from peardeck.com, and I'll show you how to do that too. Let's see. Another thing about Pear Deck is that if you are collaborating on creating Google Slides, so if you are working with a colleague to create the same slideshow, you can create the slideshow together, create the Pear Deck features together, and then each of you can present that slide separately. So you can, if James and I worked on this presentation together, I would open it from my account and I would click Start Lesson and I can present this. James could also present this to his class and it would be under his Pear Deck account. So because Google Slides has that collaboration feature, you can collaborate in making your slides and also sharing them too. Okay, is there any questions? Okay, let's go to peardeck.com and I'm just going to give you a quick overview of if you stay on the share screen for just one more minute, I'll show you what this looks like. So I'm in home. If you want to turn on the Immersive Reader, that has to be turned on in your settings. So you would go to My Account. And again, all of these directions are on our resource page. I'll show you where that is too. So you go to My Account, Settings, and then you just want to make sure that Immersive Reader is on. You can also turn on takeaways here, and you want to make sure that student login is on. Once students log in one time, then they don't have to log in again. So if you want to know who is in your session with their name, you would encourage students to log in with their Gmail account the first time. Classroom climate, when you first logged into this Pear Deck session, it asked you how you're feeling today. And with those 3 different faces, you can turn that on or off. This is not something that Pear Deck collects information on. It is just a check for you. So if you started a session and saw that someone logged in with the red sad face, maybe you check in with that student. But it's just a climate survey, so you can turn that off as well. If I go to sessions up at the top, this is where I can see all of my live sessions. So here's my session that we just did today. I didn't successfully end it, so it's still live. So I can end that session here. I can also turn it on to be student-paced. I can rename it as well. I can access the teacher dashboard for that session with this icon right here. So if I want to see how everyone's doing, I can do that. And then teacher classroom view is just the projector view, what you were seeing as we went through the slideshow. So this is where you access your Pear Deck sessions. And then the last thing I want to show you is just the resources that we have created for you for Pear Deck. So if you go to the staff resource site, and either elementary or the secondary page, Pear Deck is one of your resources in the table of contents, or if you scroll down to the Pear Deck session. And then you can click the link for Pear Deck for Google Slides. So everyone has access to this shared page. I've been working on developing the content for this page. So if you see something missing that you'd like to be there, please let me know. But it shows you how to install Pear Deck. There's also slideshow picture directions. There's a webinar and a short video showing you exactly what we just did here. I'll also crop and edit this webinar recording so that you can refer back to it if you'd like to. There's also information about student-paced lessons. You can try it out again if you'd like. And then information on the Immersive Reader and takeaways. One other thing that Pear Deck has is the Pear Deck Orchard. This is a collection, a library of Pear Deck lessons that are already created. So if you're searching for a certain topic or by content area or by grade level, the Pear Deck Orchard has tons and tons of templates already created. There's also some that work with Newsela articles. So if you use Newsela, they take a Newsela article and make a Pear Deck session or Pear Deck lesson about that article specifically. And Pear Deck is hosting webinars every other hour. So if this was not enough information for you, you can click here and join a Pear Deck webinar with a Pear Deck coach. That is totally up to you. They're going on from now until for the next 10 weeks is what they said. So lots of options. And then the last thing I want to show you is Pear Pop. So if you were doing a Zoom lesson and you did not want to create a Google Slides presentation, you just want to ask a question, have students go to joinpd.com and just answer that one question. Pear Pop is a way to do that. So they have a bunch of templates that are just single questions that you can put into your Zoom chat, or you don't have to do that. You can just tell students to go to joinpd.com, put in that code, and then answer that one question. So this is great for like on the fly check-ins with students if you don't want to create a whole Google slide presentation. And there's a short video about Pear Pop here, and then a link to the website of all the different information about how to create one. So let me just double check that that's all. Oh, one more thing James said, our Pear Deck consultant said that on Monday, you will be able, well, Monday it will be available. I will send out information on when it's accessible for teachers, but they are adding a feature for you to be able to record your audio on the slide itself. So if you want to create a Pear Deck lesson where you create an audio directly for that slide, as students go through a student-paced lesson, they would just click the play button and hear the audio that you recorded for that slide. So I think that will be a super powerful tool for students, or for teachers and for students using Pear Deck in this remote learning. Okay, are there any questions? Feel free to go to go to peardeck.com. If you'd like to set up your account right now, I'm happy to stay on and troubleshoot for people. And if there's any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and I'd be happy to answer those as well. And I will put a link to our Pear Deck page from our staff resource site in the chat. So if you want to access that directly. There was a question, if I create something this year, can I use it for a lesson again next year? Yes, so any Pear Deck interactive slide that you add to a Google Slides presentation will be there. So I can close this presentation, I can close Pear Deck, and when I open it again, this slide stays as an interactive slide. If I change my mind and I don't want this to be interactive anymore, I just click the Pear Deck toolbar at the bottom and delete it, and it's no longer an interactive slide. So any lessons that you work on will be available as long as you have access to that Google Slides presentation. Check the chat. Is there a way to sign up for additional Pear Deck training? So someone asked if there's a way to sign up for additional Pear Deck training. Yeah, so we are going to offer, I will offer 2 more Pear Decks next week. It'll be the same thing, a beginner's guide to Pear Deck. If you have questions about even just the beginning part of this webinar, I will post this webinar on our sign up sheet for for future webinars. So if you just want to click on that link, I'll try to get it up by tomorrow afternoon. You can just watch the first part of this presentation as well. You can also always reach out to your instructional tech coach. There's a few of them in this Pear Deck session, so they know everything there is to know about Pear Deck and can answer those questions for you too. Right? You're just kidding. You can ask them, they'll answer them. If not, I can help. And we have a Pear Deck consultant, James. He is our go-to guy. So we can always email him if you have questions that we can't answer, and he'll get back to us. Let me check the chat. Is Pear Deck available as an extension in Chrome? Yes, it is available as an extension in Chrome. Let's see, there's the Pear Deck Power Up, which I haven't used that much, but it is an additional extension that I plan to look into more. But really, Pear Deck is used for Google Slides. So once you've added it to Google Slides, that's how you would access it there, and then through peardeck.com. So you can always bookmark that website too. Let's see. Great. Any other questions? Feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question. Rachel?
Okay. So I went in and I made an account while you were talking. And so I think I'm done. I mean, I'm on the Pear Deck website web page, and it's got my picture and my email address in the top right.
Yep.
So now, in order to create a Pear Deck, did you say I go into Google Slides?
Yes. So you're going to go into Google Slides. If you don't see that Pear Deck in your toolbar.
Right. It's not there.
Okay. So then you're going to go to add-ons, the next button.
Okay.
If Pear Deck for Google Slides add-on isn't there, you would just go to, okay, perfect. And then click Open Pear Deck add-on. And then your toolbar will show up. And again, you can always close that toolbar if you need to and reopen it. It won't change any of the slides that you've already made interactive. Great. Any other questions? Okay. Okay, great. If you have any questions, reach out to your